So welcome to this episode in the podcast series about wisdom, brought to you by Stuart Neville from Mindful Developments and Adam Wells from adamwells.com. So here's the next question we're just going to reflect on. It's like, where are you at, in your life, in the stages of your life? There are milestones, aren't there, as particularly older. It's kind of pretty standard. Everyone really goes through them, generally speaking. And here, the transition from childhood to adolescence and to early adulthood, and finding status or power or taking on responsibility in the world and society or in the family, and getting older and evaluating, and kind of the journey itself requires us to change because the cycle of our life changes. And I think there's this question of like, where are you at in your life? Like, where are you at in that process? What is the stage you're growing into? What do you need to let go of or change in yourself to be able to develop, say, into midlife, that to be a meaningful experience instead of a crisis, or into your older years, or maybe, it's a challenge as well when you're younger. Yeah, that question's important, isn't it? Make conscious, like, where are we at?
It is, and I think a lot of how you answer that question is based on your sort of level of self-awareness. And I can only obviously speak for myself. It's in the sense that I certainly know in my younger years, I was very much seeking more. I think there's an intrinsic part of us knowing that we are growing older, and we have desires, and we want to have a fulfilling life. I think this is inherent in most people. We want to have a fulfilling life. We want a happy life, and we're seekers. We're humans are seekers. We're constantly looking for something, the next thing. And I think for me, it was around I was a seeker, but then I found what I was looking for, and then that completely changed my entire life. And I think this is the part of taking this journey of growing and responding to these life changes, helps you then accept your stage in life. So it's because you've done the journey of change inside, you're able to then accept, this is where I am in my life. And so you're not in a situation where you're 75 and you're still behaving like an adolescent of 18.
Yeah, I've met a few people like that, I must say. Kind of, haven't you? The kind of aged rocker, still raising hell. And it's kind of endearing in a way, but it is sad to see people who haven't kind of made those transitions, because there's something lost, something really important lost in not being able to kind of embody where you are at in your life and to make those transitions. I mean, on a serious note, they can be really difficult. For example, the transition from adolescence to adulthood, requires a death of the part of ourselves, that adolescent part of ourselves, really, and the rebirth of a different type of identity. And it can be shocking, it can be difficult. But are we taught? Are we supported? Are we really helped? Is it made clear that, yes, this is life, this is part of life, it's hard, it's not easy, and there will be dilemmas and there will be conflicts and there will be crises, but in those dilemmas and conflicts are the opportunities to move on and to go with the life journey.
I don't believe that we are taught how to live. We're going to go through these life stages, and this is what you're going to experience, and this is how you react to it. In the past, there were rites of passage. The tribes of our forefathers, the child was turned into an adult through a rites of passage. We've lost many of those deeper psychological maturity aspects in society now.
Yeah, no, for sure.
We're just left to find it all out by ourselves.
I think most people struggle and find their own way through. I mean, sometimes it happens for you. Sometimes it happens, get a job or kids come along or what have you, and then suddenly you're kind of thrown into a situation. But I think when we find it difficult, when we find something difficult, the kind of major changes in life, I think it's a message that, to be ready for the next stage, something new needs to develop in you, and something perhaps that you're kind of have been accustomed to within you, an attitude or what have you. You need to let that go and move on. And it's a difficult process. But if you look back and you think about the transitions in your life, you don't just grow in readiness for the next stage of your life, you also develop some wisdom and become a part of yourself that's deeper or richer or fuller or something like that. It's a qualitative journey. You learn by going through those changes, and you have to. If you don't, you'll be dragged along kicking and screaming. because it's a natural process, whether you like it or not.
I think that's it. If you deny it, you end up just suffering the consequences, because deep down you know X, Y, Z should have occurred and you haven't done it. And maybe as you get older, you're more fearful about taking the journey, and it then becomes a vicious circle that you end up suffering even more. Brings in the bitterness and the regrets, because you felt, yeah, I should have done a life change back then, but I haven't done it. And now I'm too old to do it maybe. And it all comes out in a different way. What you're actually missing is each life stage is the best stage of our life, because each life stage offers its own gifts. And by not growing and not maturing into each new life stage, we are actually missing the benefits of the next life stage. If we're going to find happiness in that life stage, we have to get into that life stage. I think as we get older, the elderhood life stage is simply freedom. You've lived a life and all that wealth of experience and knowledge and everything else, and then suddenly I can be who I truly am now, and I can feel free. That's the benefit of being the elder. And if you've not got there, you're going to be stuck in your younger years stuff, trying to prove yourself maybe still, and everything else.
So you're kind of you're talking about the benefits of kind of growing older.
Yeah.
Because most normally you kind of see by the kind of value system of the zenith of your life, where you have perhaps most power in a career setting, or in the kind of family or society or what have you, professionally. Then if you think of life as a journey as kind of accumulating power or influence or control or resources, then your kind of height of your career is the kind of zenith, and then it's downhill from there.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas if you, as you're doing, if you're kind of challenging that assumption and say, well, actually, old age is where wisdom and freedom and a different kind of joy rests, because going through a kind of development process, and that's where it's taking you, then that's a completely different perspective, isn't it?
Totally. When, say, retirement comes, and you potentially now got 20 years of your life without the constraints of your working life that you had before. So you've got 20 years of the freedom to be who you truly are, who you want to be. Yes, it means recreating your life, but you have that opportunity to recreate it exactly as you want it to, assuming you've got the resources and everything else. I can be who I want to be now. I don't have to put on a persona for the office and all of that. It's a hard journey to suddenly think I'm starting again. That's the opportunity that retirement has to offer. You can be who you truly want to be. And it's not the loss of my life's over. My best years of my life are behind me now. It's a choice. That's where going through the life stages and maturing allows you to be able to see every stage of my life is the best stage of my life.
Yeah. It's interesting you just said that. I kind of was reminded, people I've known and friends I've had, who have struggled, even myself, thinking back to my earlier life, struggled to move out of what was wonderful about childhood into making that transition was really tough. And there's something of value in that stage that I felt so keenly. It was just so wonderful. And I hadn't found vitality in the next stage of life yet, but I did feel a loss for what I was leaving behind and didn't really want to leave it behind. And I've known people who have not wanted to become responsible adults. They just want to have an extended kind of adolescence into their late 20s or so, drinking, partying, having as much fun as possible, and struggling to move on from that. And I think there is something of value to be, it was in retrospect, once you've moved on, you think, oh yeah, like for me, when we had kids, it's like become a family father, and that, so much joy from that. But before I had kids, it was quite a scary prospect, because I was giving up a lot of social freedom and were taking on these responsibilities. And then when you get older, then your kids leave home, and then you suddenly lose all the joy of having young kids and being the parent to kids that are dependent on you in a different kind of way. And it's almost like, if it's difficult, there's something, or we're stuck in the process. And I think we all do get stuck at various times and at various stages. To ask ourselves that question, like, where are we stuck? What needs to change? What value do I need to find in where my life's going?
Is it like a two-stage process? One, it's the letting go of the known world. I've been an adolescent for so long. I've been a parent for so long. And there's a letting go. It's a loss. You've got to grieve. You've got to go through this process of letting go. I am no longer parent in the sense of I'm not needed anymore. My children are flying the nest. I'm not needed in the same way. So it's a letting go and an acceptance. That can take time. Then there's the next question is, okay, well, what is my life now? I'm in this unknown period. So it is this liminal space of having to rediscover who you are. And I think that's where the stuckness comes from, not knowing how to manage the transition, or thinking that this transition has to happen in 3 weeks, when in fact it might take 3 years or 5 years. And there's no right or wrong.
Absolutely. I was going to say, I'm reminded of a story that Joseph Campbell, the mythologist, he told about. It was like a myth, a Native American Indian myth that he was analysing as a metaphor for life. What he said was that life's bigger than us. It's this life process and life forces in our body and a kind of human experience. And our subjective sense of self isn't our brain, isn't directing the show as we think it is. It's part of being taken along in this journey of life. And when you're required, or you're invited, or you choose to go into the unknown, or away from the familiar into the unknown, or in his language, there's something from the unconscious that's coming into our lives. The kind of question is are you ready for what's coming or not? Can you go with the flow? Are you holding on to who you were that's stopping you become who you might be in the future? And if our ego, our sense of self is not ready and doesn't want to die and be reborn, doesn't want to change or adapt or what have you, then that bigger life that's coming along and dragging us forward, we're going to resist it and fight against it. And we'll see that experience, or potential experience, symbolically, we'll see it as something that's dangerous and threatening. In the language of myth, it's like a monster. But if we're ready for the change, and we're ready for our old ego to weaken or fade away or what have you, for a new kind of way of being to emerge, then it's a transcendent experience, and it's a gift, and it's joyful, and it's freeing, and it's staying in tune with, in harmony with this bigger life force. I like that thing of that if we're not ready for the change, then we're not ready for it, and we're going to suffer. And then that's the thing to be understood, and to be lived, and to be accepted, and to be investigated and reflected. And okay, we can understand what our stuckness is about. And if we are ready for the next stage, then there won't be, the same resistance, and we'll find that we have changed, and our perspective has changed, and we're still here and now. We're just in a different place.
Just reminded me of a quote that I received on Joseph Campbell on exactly this point, and it was, "We must be willing to get rid of the life we've planned, so to have the life that is waiting for us." And I think embracing, be open to the process of change.
Yeah, there's work in that. I think there's work to be done psychologically, being ready to go forward in life. Not necessarily that you have to know where you're going and what's going to come next.
No. I always remind myself with the community through Spain, when you're walking the path, you never know what's around the next corner. You don't know what it's going to look like. You just have to embrace where you are. And when you turn the bend, the path will reveal itself to you. And then you have new information to make a decision. Be willing to let it unfold.
Fabulous, yeah. No, I like that.
The other conversations we've had, it's about the feeling, trusting your intuition. It's about being realistic in the moment too. It's a different way of living life. It's much more out of your head. It's a full-bodied experience. And then ultimately, this is how we grow, how we mature.
I've got a thought experiment, if you like, through this particular conversation. But if you think that kind of in our thinking minds and the way we think about ourselves in the past, we remember who we were and the experience we had, and then we're in the present, but we're thinking about the future. So in our minds, we're traveling through time, both with an eye on the past and the eye on the future, and we're moving through time. And that's how we conceive of time in thinking. Whereas if experientially, we're always in the present moment, and future and the past are thoughts and ideas, and we imagine them, but we never experience them. So that's quite a well-known kind of set of ideas. So if you think of yourself as like always being in the present moment, and like we've got this awareness of the present moment, and then almost our life, we're always here, but the experience of being a human and over time is it's rushing past us in the moment,
flowing through
and
you.
yeah, through the realm of your experience in the present moment. There are these experiences, and part of the things that come through your field of experience is the process of growing older, aging, and having to adapt the kind of different challenges that you need to adapt for that life experience to pass through the field of your experience. So then the question is, how able are you and how ready are you for what's coming down the road? When you're a child, you've got your adolescence coming down the road towards you. When you're an adolescent, your adulthood's coming towards you, and you're not moving into the future. You're always here. So then, as you were saying there, it's the thing that's important is your character, the qualities you have in yourself about your readiness and willingness and ability and maturity to be able to stay present as you're having these changing experiences.
Yeah.
So it's much more about who you are, how you are, as opposed to how we normally think about it, which is where you're going to get to, because it's going to come to you.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything because it's going to come to you.
It's going to come to you.
I'm really feeling that all we're doing is standing still. Life is just going to come to us. And the only way to really be able to respond to life coming to us is really going inside ourselves, discover who we truly are, and build these muscles of trust and muscles of awareness so that we can then adapt and respond to whatever is coming down the track to us in a wise way.
Yeah, and learn from the difficulty and also enjoy it and find what's joyful, appreciate it.
Is difficulty really difficulty? Is it no different to like when we go to the gym? Difficulty is the weight. The more weights we push up, it makes us stronger. Maybe there's a thing around how we look at this word difficulty. Actually, is it not a strengthening exercise to enable us to deal with whatever's coming down the path?
There's something very interesting. I've done some fitness, sporty type things in the past, and it's very interesting how the difference between a physical difficulty that you accept and embrace as part of the, say, strengthening process in weightlifting or something. It's difficult and there's some pain and maybe some even kind of degree of injuries or something along the way, but you're kind of embracing it because this is how you get stronger and this is part of the process, and there's nothing wrong with it. And the difference between that and then the difficulty that you really want to kind of get out of, and it's too difficult to bear and you start panicking. It's really about whether you've got your sense of balance.
I remember somebody telling me, for a parent, when the child's small, you have small problems. As the child gets older, it becomes adolescent problems, and then you get adult problems. So as a parent, you're going to go through your life with a next level of problems of a different size. And if we go through the maturation process, truly doing it, incrementally enabling ourselves to be more stronger and stronger and stronger, so that we're able to respond to the greater challenges that come on the path. And if we don't do it at all, then suddenly you get the big juggernaut that comes over. We're not integral enough to be able to respond in a positive way initially, maybe. It's just too much for us, and it's overwhelm and overload. If we go through with the flow of life and we allow ourselves to trust life and respond to it as we should, then we actually will always be able to respond to whatever comes up. I'm not saying it's not going to be difficult, but we're able to respond to it.
Yeah. So I think sometimes the big crises that we have in our life are often the fact that we haven't kind of learned something or understood something or changed in the right way, and it's the pressure's built up and then it's kind of exploded. And we can see in retrospect, well, engaged or been conscious of or tackled an issue beforehand, it wouldn't have got the steam of head that it did. And it's not easy. In reality, there will be times when we can't do it, but it's in the crisis, isn't it? I think, and when we lose control, when our plans aren't working, our strategies aren't working, or we can't control or manipulate or employ the same tactics we've used before, when that no longer works in a new stage of our life or what have you, a new situation, that you can ask the question, well, is there something in me that needs to shift? And I think if we ask ourselves that question and understand that there's we're always in that process of we're having to adapt to the next kind of challenge that's coming, but also engage with it and live it. I mean, I think it's equally about the difficulty and about the appreciation and the joy. It's the two things that I think are finely balanced, and well, they can be finely balanced. I think they're very powerful questions to be asking, you know, like, where am I at? Where am I stuck?
Yeah.
What's coming down the line? How can I be ready to embrace that and, you know, let go, but also what's coming, you know?
Knowing that, like, that then gives us the recognition that life is ever changing, and we mustn't just simply just rest on our laurels and think that I'm in my comfort zone and all this, nothing's ever going to change again. No, not at all. It's the complete opposite. And it's actually through that, by being willing to change and to be willing to grow, is actually where I think we live life. We're fully experiencing life, because life is a change. And we're growing machines as well. Physically, we will automatically, but we have to consciously, psychologically change through that process.
Yeah.